gather them together, black and white, Bishop Tutu, everyone, come together and repent for lying on God. Now, I would ask you as a Christian, one who proclaims and professes to have met Jesus, how are you and your people going to develop 2 million jobs for the country?
All right.
How are you going to stop making the Pope white, Mary white, Jesus white, Moses white when they were not white? When and where are you going to develop a mass education program and not tell the people to wait till they get to heaven? When are you going to tell the man with 47 cars to sell those cars and give that money back to the poor people so that they might have a decent life? When are you going to repent on behalf of the Christians for enslaving the people, the descendants of whom are in this building tonight? When are you going to repent for causing the slaves to be prostitutes? When are you going to repent and ask forgiveness? When are you going to ask the white people to give back at least half of the 87% of the land that they stole in view of the fact that the Bible said, thou shalt not steal? When are you going to persuade your Christian white brothers to not control 95% of every asset in this country? And finally, when are you going to persuade the white people to give to the Tswana tribe all the Kimberly property that was the birthplace of all of the diamonds and give them an accounting for all the money due to them? When?
I have not studied much, but what I do know, I have met Jesus.
Thank you
and
very
I
much.
know he has changed my life.
So you don't want to answer the question?
That he will change many other
Thank
people
you, sir.
to accept him.
Can I have the next question?
All right,
please?
brother.
Thank you very much.
Keep the faith. When white people say they're white, they're not referring to the color of their skin. If Margaret Thatcher gets a suntan, I don't know what it would look like, but let's just assume that Margaret Thatcher got a suntan. You wouldn't call her a colored woman, would you? You would still call her a white woman, even though her skin may be brown. What do you mean when you say white? You mean that she is from Europe. So whether she's Italian, white, Sweden, white, England, white, France, white. White means coming from Europe. Black means coming from Africa. So whether we're fair skin, brown skin, dark skin, East Coast, West Coast, North, South, if we're from the black continent and we've been here 300 years, we are black people from the black continent. All over the world, 1 billion people uniting through Ramadan. That's why I'm hopeful and optimistic that by the year 2050, when 1 out of every 2 persons would have been born a Muslim, we would have the first real meaningful opportunity for a permanent world peace. Assalamu alaikum. This country could explode. Who will be the first targets? The businessmen, the lawyers, those who didn't want the masses in their office. They will come without your permission. So if Hitler killed 6 million Jews who were European Jews, and Hitler was a European, give the Jews part of Germany, not of Palestine. Sure, he works, so do I. Raising the kids is not easy. Cooking and washing and taking them to school, this is not easy. He doesn't seem to understand I work too. What What I'm trying to find out, and you may know better than I do, tell me specifically, if I got this, everyone in this room, and we went out to the homeland and we started teaching people how to read who did not know how to read, what would the government do? What I'm saying to you in closing is that there is a great opportunity to really be a new South Africa and a new African. Forget the begging. There will be no gifts. I don't care what the World Bank tells you and the International Monetary Fund tells you. It's crumbs. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a pleasure for me to be with you. It's always refreshing to talk to young people and to have an interaction with the youth. That's where you learn a great deal. If you will not quote me, I will share with you an insight. Old people sometimes are boring. They do not keep up, and they say the same things they said for the last 20 years. You may notice it in some of your classes. And they don't change the lectures. They don't read new material. They do not keep up with the times. However, there are some old people who keep up with the times more than young people, because some young people are boring, because they don't read, and they don't think, they don't reflect, and they don't recognize their own abilities. So I'm neither young nor old, but I can assure you, you have made a major mistake by coming here this afternoon instead of studying. There are a number of ideas that I would like to share with you. I was thinking about discussing with you some of my early background, what it was like growing up. But I got bored even thinking about having to reflect and repeat that story again. I thought about talking about the challenges of development. And that was appealing to me, but it's so vague. What does that really mean? I mean, everyone talks in terms of challenges, and you get tired of challenges. So I decided that I would like to start with a observation that we have used in America and throughout the world to demonstrate to young people the mental ability that they have. Above all other things, not considering in the narrow, restricted sense religion, my greatest love is ideas. I love ideas, but I have not always loved ideas. For a long period in my life, I hated to read. I liked sports, I liked entertainment, but I hated to read. I love football, and my seniors always told me that I was too small, and I could never figure out what they were talking about. They said, "You're not big enough." So what could they possibly mean? Because for me, I was always the standard. in athletic competition. So other people were either tall or short, but I was the model. I was the standard. So how could they say I was not big enough? They told me you're going to get hurt, especially at the college level, because the gentlemen tend to get larger and larger, and I was still weighing 130 pounds. But I really loved the competition. And that's what helped me do chores around the house. When we had a big lawn, you had to do the cutting with a little sickle. So I said, that's fine, because that's going to build up my wrist, and I'll be able to throw the football better. When we built walls, retaining walls, I said, this is excellent, because this wheelbarrow is going to build my muscles. And that evening when I felt tired, they kept telling me the sorer you are, the more muscles you're building. So I kept going to see how sore I could become. In effect, I had a way of measuring how close I was getting to my goals. And that's what I needed. It wasn't enough to set goals. I wanted to know how close I was to the goal. So when I looked in the mirror and moved my arm in the proper direction, if I saw something that resembled a muscle, I said, I am on the right track. Fortunately for me, I did not really get seriously injured. On one occasion, I broke my hand on defense in the American football game. And I was playing quarterback, so I couldn't, on offense, throw the football. So I was useless to the team. So I persuaded the coach to switch me to end so that I could try to catch the football. Fortunately for me, with one hand, like you see in the movies, I caught the football, put my broken hand to the side, and ran for a touchdown. Only the coach knew that my hand was broken, or he suspected it was broken, and he was overwhelmed. He said, look at this man, nothing deters him. I liked all that. These were compliments. I said, people will now recognize that all of the work I did around the house, and the sickle and the wheelbarrow and the sledgehammer gave me the stamina that I couldn't measure. The problem was in education. Reading books. I couldn't measure my brain. I couldn't see any change in the brain. When I got finished trying to struggle through the book, I felt about the same as I did when I started. So I said, what am I doing? I haven't accomplished anything. And I began to doubt my ability. I became convinced that I did not have the ability, but so what? I could always play football or basketball. And then an experience occurred that I'm sure most of you have witnessed directly or indirectly, and it really affected me. Someone told me that one of the popular artists had just come out with a new song. And the song was fantastic, and everybody was talking about the song. It was about 3 hours later that the song came on the radio, and I heard the song along with a lot of my friends. When the song was finished, I started humming the song and repeating the song. And I hadn't taken any notes at all. I hadn't said, and let me see, did you get that word? Let me write it down. I wasn't frowning. I wasn't straining. I wasn't taxing myself. I simply drank the words in internalized them and I was ready to apply them. Later on, I asked myself, how could this possibly happen? There are young black Americans who are classified as mentally retarded by the public school system. They say they can't learn. But they can remember all the intricate words of the rap songs. I can't hardly make out the words. I keep straining. What did they say? What did they? They say, can't you hear? And of course it is obvious that if a young person can learn the words of that song, they can learn physics, or math, or biology, geometry, architecture, engineering, computers. Then why aren't they doing it? There are two elements that went into the learning process of these millions of young people around the world who hear the records. One is they are convinced that they can do it. They've done it before. All their friends are doing it. It's a part of the peer group. So they don't ask themselves whether they can do it or not. They just begin to apply it. Self-confidence. The second thing is that they can visualize the internal benefit of having learned the song. So they visualize themselves with their friends singing the song, or at a dance, or at a recreational activity, and they identify with the image and they extract the joy or the excitement of that image. It becomes an unconscious part of their personality. So as soon as the record starts, they start smiling. As soon as the physics lecture starts, they start frowning. As soon as the rhythm of the beat proceeds, they start nodding. As soon as the chemistry or English or French or even Arabic lesson starts, on their face, doubt can be seen. And rather than to admit the doubt, they say, this really is important. How am I going to use this? Why do I need English grammar? I mean, I'm not going to be an author of books. I'm going to be in my father's business, or I'm going to be a housewife. So why don't I just take those courses that will help me realize my goals? That's all I want. But that is a little bit of a cop-out. That's not really all that you want. But that's all that you believe that you can do. Because the image is not there. The internal image of your ability. What I would like to do for the next couple minutes is raise the internal image that is unconscious and make it conscious. I want to prove to you how great your mind is and how easy it is to learn. Just like the record. Excitement is needed. Self-confidence is needed. The visualization of how you're going to use this information, and the rest is done. That's why the Quran says over and over, seek knowledge. Seek means that it's an effort. It's something that you pursue. Seek knowledge. If it is necessary to go to China, don't even think about it. Go to China. Why would you go to China? For money? No. For excitement? No. For knowledge. The Islamic societies were at their highest level of achievement when they stressed reading and they relied on knowledge as a testimony and as the criterion for their faith. The very first thing, as I have said over and over at every speech I have given, that was spoken to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Igra. Then it was repeated, Igra. And then it was repeated, Igra. The first word was not pray. The first word was not stay away from alcohol. Stay away from cigarettes. The very first message, read. That is the importance to which Allah attaches to reading. Through the years, we have abandoned reading virtually. Brother Al Jahis, an African born in Iraq in the 1800s AD, wrote 120 books in his lifetime. He was famous because he would go to a bookstore and he would pay the owner of the bookstore to let him have the bookstore for the whole night. For the whole night he would be in his heaven reading books. You ask if the books that he read were confined to the Quran, and I must tell you no. Al Jahis was the father of zoology. He wrote about plants and animals based upon observation. He dissected animals and captured the biological structures and functions of animals, and he wrote it. 120 books, he wrote about everything. He was comfortable in the world of ideas. So when the rulers were planning for buildings, they would call Al Jahis, how should we design this building? When they were planning roads, when they were planning for the care of the people, Al Jahis come. Why? Because he was a man of knowledge. And based upon his reading and thinking and investigation, the society was able to move. There was another brother in Arabia of African descent by the name of Antar. Have you heard of Antar? Antar was, if I might be permitted the luxury of using some pedestrian language, Antar was a bad brother. His mother was captured as a slave. And Antar saw a lovely Arabian princess, and he said to himself, I want this lady as my wife. And her father said, how? This is long before the birth of the prophet, peace be upon him. He said, Antar, how could you expect me to give my daughter to a slave? I mean, you have to be realistic. I mean, we recognize that you're an interesting person and you keep people laughing all the time, but Antar, please, this is my daughter. What will the neighbors say? Antar said, all I have to offer is my genuine love. And Antar started writing about his feelings poetically. He one time met a lion trying to attack the herd. He was only about 8 or 9 years old, but his job was to watch the herd. And the lion saw the herd and saw little brother Antar and decided that immediate gratification of the biological urges was certainly stronger than any fear that this lion might have of this young man. And Antar killed the lion. And the word went everywhere. I mean, people all over Arabia start talking about Antar. And he wrote a poem about the lion. He said, "You herd, who said that you are the king of the jungle? I have slain thee. Am I not the king of the jungle?" Antar proceeded to develop physically, mentally, intellectually, and he continued to pursue ideas. And in the Kaaba, they put his poetry up on the top of the ceiling. He was regarded as the most intelligent and accomplished poet in Arabia. He was also regarded as the strongest man that Arabia had ever produced. He was also regarded as the most courteous and respected person that Arabia had ever produced. In Saudi Arabia today, you will hear teachers tell their students, don't misbehave or you will never grow up to be like Antar. His fame lives from his day until now. About 1,500 years ago he lived, but everyone remembers Antar. And of course, he married the young lady of his affection. And he traveled in Europe, he traveled throughout the Middle East, conquering and exploring, but knowledge became an obsession. This characteristic was the approach to life that we Muslims took in the earlier days. We have lost that. We now prefer distractions. If I tell you, here is our choice. Let's go down the street and demonstrate for the Palestinians, or let's read 3 books so that we can write a legal brief to represent them in the world court. Which would we do? Going down the street's easy. Just get up and say, let's go. No one better get in my way. But reading the books to prepare the brief that will do more for the Palestinians than being on the corner, say, well, this guy is intelligent, let him do it. But it's, you know, I'm not sure. I was never too good at that law. Those books are pretty thick and heavy, and I think I'm going to pass. Now, we are all for the Palestinian. The question is, what is the best way to help the Palestinian? What is the greatest thing you have to offer? You are students. The greatest thing you have to offer is knowledge if you read. If you don't read, you have the ignorance of your hearts. That's it. And that's why the Islamic world has become confused and weakened, because we have failed to comply with the first command, read. We do anything else, television, gossip, even have sewing circle, play cards, go shopping, look at fashions, anything you want, just don't read. And if you read, let it be something you can memorize in a hurry. Sometimes we even cheat. Say, look, if you go to the class, what's that instructor like? And I can't do all that work. Could you help me and show me? And some students even put answers on their hand. They write it down there. I know you don't do that. It's because abandoning the important function of reading. If your mind is just a muscle. If you do not use your mind, it gets hard and it contracts. And when you want to use it, there's nothing there. You live by rote. It's the saddest thing in the world. You will be bored for the rest of your life because your mind is dead. You can function mechanically. You can cook, you can sew, you can have children, but your mind is dead. It's the same as if you don't eat food, you will die. It is fine to observe Ramadan from sunup to sundown, but if you try to observe Ramadan for 2 months in a row straight, you will surely die. And in the course of your death, you know what happens to your cells? They become cannibalistic. Your cells go into open revolt and they start attacking other cells, striving to stay alive. And your body shrivels and your stomach gets big. These are the biological manifestations of starvation. Your cells are trying to do anything they can to stay alive. So they attack the closest thing to them. So fat people get skinny because all the tissue is under attack. No defenses. Your body is showing you nature at work. Nature does not want to be cannibalistic. Your cells don't want to eat each other. They want to eat nourishment. Some chicken curry, some rice. That's what the cells want. You leave them with some tasteless, nasty cells to eat. The mind is the same. You don't feed the mind, it will die. And in the course of dying, you become cantankerous, you become uninformed, you become unable to make major decisions. That is the reason that every society of slavery would not let the slave read. They wanted the slave to die mentally, not physically. There's an interesting book that you must read called The Arrogant Faith. The name of the author is Forrest Woods, so that's easy. Woods and Forrest, no problem. And when they tried to convert the African slave in America, similar practice occurred here. They had to go to the plantation owner and to the municipal government and to the state government. The missionaries said, we would like permission to come on your plantation just on Sundays and preach to the slaves. The owner said, you must be crazy. You will not be preaching to my slaves. They need to rest up in order to be ready for 4 in the morning on Monday. So they pleaded with them. They said, if you will let us teach your slaves, they will be better slaves. We promise you. The master said, no way. They're going to start reading things in that Bible, and there's things that will confuse them. They're not that bright anyway. But there are little passages that you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. They'll think they can leave this plantation. So the Christian missionaries say, we give you our word If you let us convert that slave to Christianity, he will be docile. You can even rape his wife or his daughter or his mother, and he will not say anything except, "Thank you, Jesus." We promise that. He'll be a better worker. You'll never see him pout. Every time you come around, he say, "Yes, boss." We'll promise that if you just let us convert him. He will never run away if you let us convert him to Christianity. He's a Muslim now. He may be dangerous as a Muslim. He may run away. All these Muslims stick together. It is not practical. No. It is not practical to keep this man in that state of mind as a Muslim. So what did the plantation owner say? Give him Christianity. Go ahead. And we're going to test you, though, and see if it works. And it worked. Because the slave was not permitted to read. In the United States, if a slave had a book in his hand, he could be killed. If he didn't prove that he wasn't reading it, if he didn't prove that he wasn't carrying it, he could be killed. What was the purpose? Keep the mind dormant. And that's what we have done. We don't read. We make excuses. We say we'd like to, or one day we will, but we don't believe that there's value in reading. We don't see where reading is going to advance us spiritually, physically, or economically. Just read what you have to for class, but nothing else. You will be a zombie. You must read everything. You must read literature, you must read architecture, you must read art, you must read religion, you must be computers, you must read and read and read. How do you get started? You just get your friends and you tell them, "Look, I don't like reading and you don't like reading, but let's go read this book and let's talk about it." A book discussion group. One of my friends in Washington, D.C. just started one. 12 people. A little more than a year later, 2,500 every week in Washington, D.C. reading books about everything. So that you have a healthy climate. People see the drug problem decline, the crime problem decline, your personality's balanced. You can think for yourself, you can make judgments for yourself because you have something to base it on. So that every idea that someone suggests, let's do this or let's do that, you say first, let us reason about it. What is the purpose? What do we want to accomplish? Is there a better way? Is there a more practical way? Is there a more strategic plan? That becomes the function of reading. That's what reading does. There are some shortcuts for reading, and I think you might find them valuable. Before you read a book, if you are like me, if you already like reading, you don't need these hints. But reading was the most difficult thing I'd ever done. I have never done anything as more difficult than reading, because I couldn't see the progress. You keep talking about, yeah, it'll make your brain grow and it'll make you feel good, but I didn't see that. I didn't have that experience. It didn't make me feel good. It made me feel bored and made me feel I was wasting my time. So I would take the book and I would start asking questions. Who wrote this book? I bet it was someone big and fat and probably dumb. And I bet there's about at least 400 pages. It feels like, I haven't opened the book at all. There's at least 400 pages in this book. And I bet the author was only about 3 feet tall anyway. And I bet he didn't even organize the book properly. I bet there is no methodology in that book at all. Now what am I doing? I am involving my mind and my emotions in the book. I haven't read anything. So when I pick up the book and I see the book was written in 1913, and I had already said it was written in the 1800s, it pops in my mind. When I see the author's name and I said his name was Abbott and it was really Franklin, it pops in my mind. When I look at the chapter headings and I see that they are organized, I start wondering how and what is the methodology. Then I take one word out of each chapter heading. I still haven't read the book. One word out of each chapter heading, and I take the letter of that word and I make a phrase or a sentence. Maybe I will use Dr. Most Bad. So out of chapter 1, I will get the theme, and it may be D, I say that's D. The next chapter, and when I string it together, I know the theme of every chapter in the book, and I haven't read a page. So I build a framework. I build a level of self-confidence. I get a feeling that I know what that's about. If I give a person who speaks Urdu an Urdu newspaper, he takes it right away because there's no barrier. If I give him a German newspaper, he just he hesitates. If I give an African American magazine, he just grabs it, looks at the pictures and starts smiling. This is Michael Jackson, this is James Brown. If I give him a Russian magazine, he just kind of looks at it and puts it down. Because the confidence level isn't there. He doesn't think he's ever seen anything like that before, but what he knows he has seen before, he takes that and it becomes the basis of his confidence to read. Now I'm suggesting this as a technique for building confidence and enthusiasm for reading. Now, in short, what future does the young person have today? If you don't read, you don't have a future. So I can stop and you will have my complete message. If you don't read, it's over. You have nothing to contribute. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. We want everything but reading. Let me get involved. I want to be in the jihad. I want to go on what? Ignorance? The biggest problem that we have right now in the Middle East is that we have people who are responding to emotions, not reason and not judgment. So we are manipulated. People sit down and they just laugh at us. He said, look, you want to have some fun? We can make this one attack that one. No problem. All we have to do is tell him, did you hear what he said about you? He said what? Sure. I mean, he may not have meant it. I'm not sure. I can't say he meant it. I mean, I heard him say that. But I can't say before Allah that he really meant it. The only thing I can say is, you know, I didn't like it when he said it. The way he said it, you know, it just kind of struck me as a kind of a nasty thing. Marshal the troops. There's no evaluation. Was it really said? If it was, so what? What does it really mean? Who's going to be affected by it? Emotion. That's not the way the Islamic community operated before. But that's the only thing you have to operate on. If you have ignorance, you have emotion. Don't expect anything else. How could there be? There is nothing else. There's knowledge and ignorance. That's what ignorance means, not knowing, right? So if you don't know, you're ignorant. And if you know, you're not ignorant. So if you don't know, you operate on ignorance. And that is the cause of the spiritual decline of Islam. We are still getting more and more people, but we're falling apart inside, blaming everyone but ourselves. He's wrong and she's wrong. And I know this brother doesn't really believe in the Quran. And this brother, even when he's praying, I saw him, his eyes are open. Did you see that? We are reduced to recyclers of emotional ignorance. Instead of coming together and saying, look, brother, have you read this book? This thing is unbelievable. You know, if we implement this program, we can move our community from this point to this point and open up 200 jobs in the process. But we better get a computer and make sure that it will really work. Who knows how to run a computer? I don't know, brother, but I'll get a book and see if I can learn the computer. Then I'll go to the center and ask them if I can practice what I'm learning. But even if we have a computer, we need an accounting system. Well, I hate math. I mean, I can't stand math, but if we really need an accounting system and there's no one else willing to do it, I will try my best. That's knowledge. That's what supports progress. But that takes time, and that takes discipline, and that takes sacrifice. It's easier just to give a speech. Allahu Akbar! Say, that brother, you can feel it. He's sincere. Please. Are we talking about sincerity or are we talking about knowledge? Did you read ever in the Quran where the faithful was told to go all the way to China if necessary to find sincerity? Go all the way to China if necessary to find how to pray? Go all the way to China if necessary to find the latest fashions? He said, the only thing I'm telling you about China to go that distance is for knowledge. Search the universe. The universe. It is in the universe that you find Allah. He could have easily told you, don't read anything but the Quran. I mean, that would have sounded very appealing. Search the universe. That's comprising sociology, psychology, history, geology, mathematics, astronomy. Search the universe. That is your future. If you do not master the computer, your opportunities in life in the future will be very dismal. You can be an engineer, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer. Learn how the computer works. Everything will be related to the computer. And if you don't know it, you'll be out of step. So what does one do? They get to the center and they say, can we meet here on Saturday to get computer practice? We need to build in the computer. We need to set up a profile of management. Do you realize the Muslims are some of the most inefficient people on earth? Inefficient. You criticize the Jews, they are generally more efficient. You criticize the Japanese, they are generally more efficient. Why are we efficient? Inefficient. I've heard many explanations. Some have said it's in our blood. It's just somehow something that we inherited. Others have said it's just nature, the hot climates. People who grow up in hot climates become lazy and they don't want to work and they don't want to do anything. I'm telling you it's because we don't read and we're not disciplined. And that's what Ramadan is for. That's what it's all about. Ramadan is teaching you how to discipline your moods when you don't feel like it. You don't always feel like missing a meal from sunup to sundown. But the discipline that you get in observing Ramadan should carry you into the library when you don't feel like going to the library to study. That's the reason you build that discipline up, so that you can employ it throughout the year. We have an appointment at 5 o'clock. We wander in at 6. Salam alaikum, brother. Like nothing happened. And then when we give an excuse, it's usually a lie. Or, you know, brother, this is what happened. And we build in. Allah doesn't send the sun up one morning at 6 o'clock, and then the next morning at 4 in the afternoon. You'd be totally confused. That's why you search the universe, to see the patterns of nature. And you say, if Allah's giving us a pattern, then we ought to do it. You ought to set aside 2 hours a day for outside reading. Don't start off that way, you might get discouraged. Start with 10 minutes, then 15 minutes, then a half hour. But your goal is 2 hours a day, I'm going to read something that doesn't relate to my class. I'm building my mind. You become addicted to it. You start deriving happiness and peace and thrills from the material that you read. You can then help your brother because you have something to base the help on. Not just impulse. We ought to do this. This would be interesting. And why don't we do this? And halfway through it, no, this is a better idea. That's confusion. Allah is not the author of confusion and disorder. In the Quran is the blueprint. If we would only listen. Now, what I'm going to do is stop. And I want to entertain questions from you of areas that you might want me to comment on. And you can ask anything you like, as I've said at all of my addresses. I will try my best to answer any questions that you have. And please don't be reluctant. I am here for the purposes of trying to respond to your questions. Are there questions? Yes.
What is the Islamic movement, the student movement in America doing? Why did you choose?
It varies a bit from school to school. There are some schools that are very active. There are some schools that are not very active. And those schools that are active usually found some kind of a leader who for some reason was able to provide a direction. As an example, there's a brother from Saudi Arabia by the name of Hassan. He was majoring in mathematics and computers at San Francisco State College. And he's always come up in a very religious family. People might consider him to be a bit fanatic. He comes to this big cosmopolitan city, San Francisco, California, and he is wearing his thobe. Well, on San Francisco State campus, you do not wear thobes. You can wear Levi's, you can wear Brooks Brothers suits, but you do not wear thobes. People will make fun of you if you wear thobes. Brother Hassan wore his thobe, not even thinking about what other people were saying. And they were in the corners kind of laughing, saying, farmer, even some of the Arab students and the Muslim students were saying, why is he doing that? Doesn't he realize this is embarrassing to us? Hassan continued, and not only did he wear a thobe, let me tell you what he frequently ate in the cafeteria. Dates. Dates. This is what he had. Sitting in the cafeteria, all the students eating traditional American food, and Brother Hassan is eating dates. People just kind of look, they said, this is a weird brother. The grades came out in the first semester, and this so-called weird brother Hassan had all A's. The word went everywhere. All the Muslim students said, Hassan has all A's. And I've been having difficulty in math. I don't want to flunk out of the school and go home because my parents will kill me. So they went to Hassan and said, Brother Hassan, how you doing? Salaam alaikum. how's school? You look like you like math. You know, I'm having a few problems. Could we get together sometime? And he said, yes, brother. I mean, he was very serious. He said, I'd be glad to share with you whatever I know. However, I have a problem. I'm on this campus. I don't know a lot of people. And on Juma, I'm accustomed to going to a mosque to pray. And there is no mosque on this campus. It's a Catholic school, in fact. And the students do not seem to be aware of where the closest mosque is. And what I'd like to do is to go to the university and get a room set aside that on Juma we can have prayer. And if you will assist me, I will tutor you free. Well, the end of the story is that if you go to San Francisco State today, there are 300 students every Juma having prayer. If you talk to the students, you will find that on the average, students who are getting C and C minus grades, which is average grades, are now getting B and A grades. Because Ghazan made legitimate academic achievement. People who were just outright playboys became A students. And of course this gave them more money because their parents just said, look, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. But it gave a respect on that campus. So that when a student came there, a Muslim student, your orientation on that campus is if you don't read and you don't achieve on this campus, you have embarrassed us. So it went from the extreme of making fun to respecting because one man started a program based on achievement. Achievement. He's saying we're at a university. That's where all the books are. We may never have a chance to come back again. Why blow this opportunity to acquire knowledge? All right, there are other schools where unfortunately leadership of the type that Ghazan provided didn't materialize. So they may have 2 or 3 students. They start out enthusiastically, you know, let's have a discussion. Let's have a Muslim student association. So then you get the first time half the students come out. By the end of the semester, 2/3 of the students don't come out. You ask them why, they say nothing happens. And you just go there and talk or argue and leave, so what's the point of being there? Leadership is required. You have to ask yourself what would make a person want to come to an Islamic student meeting. What is going to go on that's going to be beneficial? What do you have to offer? You can't just say we're offering Islam. You can get that anywhere. What do you have to offer? On a college campus, the best thing you have to offer is the highest grades in the school. You're telling the students, look, brothers, we're on this campus and we want our names at the top as being the highest achieving students. And the person on there, the only thing he wants to know is, how much time is it going to take and can I do it? And you have to overcome his doubt, the feeling of inferiority, the feeling that he can't achieve. And you overcome that by demonstrating success. You're saying if you're having trouble and I'm having trouble, let's find a tutor. Let's discuss how to perform better in this course. But once you establish the tone, people will come to your meeting because selfishly they're getting something out of it that they can quantify. Pure selfish. In addition, there may be intrinsic values. If, however, there are no programs, what will hold the students? The problems today are going to be related to television. You have to compete with the television. Television has more to offer from an emotional point of view. They have entertainment, they have soapbox operas, they have comedies. A person is reading and they are progressing mentally and their mind is alert and alive and they have confidence in themselves. Confidence in their reading, spiritual growth will be automatic. We, in 1962, had an organization that started from by a couple, three, I guess, very naive college students who just thought that if we made an announcement that we all needed to get together, that we would. And we did. The first meeting we, I guess, had maybe about 12 or 13 people. Then we started reading books. And fortunately for us, the leaders of the group would not let us digress. It didn't end up being a blame session where we just sat around and said, I don't like him, and I don't like him, and I don't like the government, and I don't like that. You can't sustain it. You're not learning anything. You're responding to feelings. Before we don't like or do like, let's get some information. Let's find out what actually happened. And one of the books that we read was They Came Before Columbus. I did not believe when the gentleman recommended the book for us to read. I thought he was making it up, and I thought that he was lying. He said the book will tell us how West African Mandingos sailed from the west coast of Africa over to Mexico hundreds of years before Columbus. They Came Before Columbus is the name of the book. Van Sterneman is the author. They got the book, we brought it in the group, we started reading it, and the first thing I did is look at the pictures, because that was the easiest. And when I saw the statues in Mexico, I did not have to ask any other questions. I went back and read the book. That became the basis of our interest. People start telling their friends, brother, do you know this? They were in demand. Do you know what happened in West Africa? I didn't even know how to spell Mandingo. But I was excited about what had been done, which gave us then the opportunity to read Mr. Blyden's book. Incredible book, Edward Blyden, called the Christianity, Islam, and the Negro Race. Again, on West Africa, comparing Christian villages with Muslim villages and giving the reason why the Muslim villages were so far ahead. Edward Blyden. And then we start reading books. E. Franklin Frazier, W. E. Du Bois. I read Marcus. I was amazed. This gentleman was an African American, actually born in Jamaica. And when the African American population in the United States in 1917 and 1920 was roughly 9 million, he had 3 million members. No one has had that kind of success since. He raised $10 million in 3 years, no television, no celebrity endorsements. So I was just curious, how could a man go into the black community and come out with $10 million in 3 years? What did he do? In reading the book, I came across a name. Musa Muhammad Ali was the gentleman in England who gave Marcus Garvey his first job and directed Marcus Garvey to the bookstore or to the library. He said, Garvey, I'm going to give you enough just to live, and the library will give you enough to live forever. And when I saw the influence of Marcus Garvey coming from a Muslim, I became even more excited. But I would have never known that. As a result, in the Bay Area, the group got larger and larger. We read operas. When we first decided to study French, there was some objection. What are we studying French for? That's the white man's language. What do we want to be like the white people? We just study our own language. That's all we have to do. But after thought, we just listed the objectives. What is the purpose of reading? What is the value of French? Where can it be used? How can it help? Then we weighed all the disadvantages. There was one. Some people don't like it. We said, well, can't you say more than that? So when you added it up, logic took over. We read French at night. This was not during school. In the evening, we got a brother from Mali. He came in and he taught us French. Then we read the Bible. If we hadn't read the Bible, I would be at a tremendous disadvantage. Reading the Bible thoroughly and critically. I mean, these brothers wanted to know everything. But now I have a good framework in the Bible. So when I give speeches, I don't mind talking about the Bible because we studied it thoroughly. Then we studied the Quran. Some said if you study the Bible before you study the Quran, that's haram. I said, fine, but just show me in the Quran where it says that. I'm willing to do whatever the Quran said, but let the Quran show me. I said, well, we go back to the blackboard, list all of the support as why we shouldn't do it this way, and all the reasons why we shouldn't do it this way, and then we weigh them, and we proceed on the basis of logic. Now, if you go to the Bay Area, you will find an amazing thing. You'll find a large number of African-American doctors, African-American scientists, African-American engineers who came out of that group. The leading politician, African-American in the state of California, is out of that group. The leading African-American congressman in the United States Congress is out of that group. All of these brothers could have easily been in penitentiary today because these were block boys. Poor families, no hope, no chance, but because they developed the belief in themselves predicated upon knowledge, they became a producing human being. I stress to you, don't miss the opportunity to develop a reading group and read all that you can. It may be slow at first. Do it anyway. Meet once a week, discuss the book, read the book first. Just don't come discussing. Read the book, analyze the book, ask the questions. Why are we reading it? What is this book all about? What can it do for me? What am I going to do after I'm finished reading it? What are all the disadvantages? And once you decide, don't turn back. The next one will be just a little easier, and the next one will be just a little easier, and after a while it will be a pattern that you won't feel comfortable going to sleep ignorant. Your brain will cry out for brain food just as strongly as your body cries out for body food. It means that you can plan better. Now, some of those same brothers that went to engineering school, they are now working on a system to provide communication satellites for the entire continent of Africa. Both a mapping satellite and a communication satellite. The plan is to have 3 satellites launched in orbits of about 200 to 300 miles. And then a mapping satellite launched in about a 70,000 foot range. The mapping satellite gives you the capability of sitting in this room and from the satellite obtaining data, digitizing that data, doing a scan of the data, sitting right here in this room, and I could tell you where the gold, the silver, the uranium is located in this country. This is advanced technology. So instead of going the old way, prospecting and costing millions and millions, the new technology, utilizing infrared and algorithms to correlate the probability of geological profiles and signatures, gives you a chance to move the community from a point of depression to a point of advancement. We got millions of brothers out there in the rural areas, almost starving to death. And we Muslims are saying, Assalamu alaikum, we really are committed. Brother Adam, tell the people we're with them. And after he tells them that, what's he going to say? What's he going to say next? We are students. We should be analyzing the circumstances of their existence. We should be highlighting the technology that will improve their life. That's our job. That comes through reading. I was reading in the newspaper, Wall Street Journal, the story about a little old funny plant that grows wild in Ethiopia, just grows all over the place. And one American government employee found that plant and looked at the berry. And based upon the local people, he was convinced that that berry, the juice of the berry, would cure cancer. So he said, here I am in the desolate areas of Africa, but this is my day. I can now retire. I'll be a multimillionaire. I have struck it rich. Just find out how to get that juice and cure all the cancer. He was happy. They did some studies and it didn't seem to have any effect on cancer. But by accident, they found out that the juice of this berry, if you put it in toxic substances, removes the toxicity. Right now they have up here in part of the Zulu village mercury waste that was brought from the United States that is 1,000,000 times stronger than the allowable exposure amount in the United States. The United States said, don't bury that stuff here. Get that out of here. That's dangerous. It will kill you. They sold it and it ended up here in South Africa. It's here now. And it's polluting the water. And people will die. And when they die, they say, well, I don't know what happened. I guess there must be some epidemic. There's some outbreak. Well, it's this kind of juice from the berry that can solve the problem. But how do you know if you don't read? When I read the article, the first thing I did is the cheapest, because I don't like spending a lot of money. The Quran said don't waste assets. Allah is not happy when you waste money. So I said, well, the cheapest thing to do is either telephone or write a letter. Telephone, he may not be there, call me back, and I probably will not be there because I live on airplanes. So I'll write the letter. If he writes back, I can call my office and they'll tell me what he said. He was very nice, and this is something interesting, and it's my life, and this and this and this. I said, well, send me some literature. He sent me some literature, and lo and behold, a brother from Africa was the one who was in charge of the investigation. I jumped on the plane and flew to Washington, D.C. Said, brother, assalamu alaikum. He said, wa alaikum salam. I said, what are you doing in this laboratory anyway? They tell me you're a chemist. They tell me that you're on the verge of creating chemical compounds that can revolutionize the world. Is that true? He said, inshallah, I think we're very close to doing something very interesting. And we persuaded the government of Zimbabwe to put in a pilot plant. And that's where it is now, in Zimbabwe. When I leave South Africa, I'm going to Zimbabwe. And the people that put the project up took the seed after it was mature, and they took it to Costa Rica. They lied to the government in Zimbabwe. They said, all we want to do is with this seed is to decompose the shell and get the oil to further our investigation. They took the seed to Costa Rica because they said, we do not want to be dependent on Africans. They're too unstable. One day we will get product, the next day we won't. We're in business, we can't depend on them. So in Costa Rica, they're white. They're just, we can depend on them. And that's what they did. I found out and I went to Zimbabwe in May. And I told the government of Zimbabwe, you have been tricked. This is what they did to you. They were shocked. They said, but how could they lie to us like that? I said, it's easy. Practice makes perfect. I went back to Washington, D.C. I said, brother, can you make a machine that will grind out that seed so we can get the oil to be able to help the world and help our people? He told me that I have a whole program for Southern Africa. I've been developing it over the years. They have developed the ability to take nicotine out of tobacco and make a food product that has more protein value than sesame seed and soybean. Now, can you imagine if you go throughout all of the territories and we are monopolizing tobacco without any nicotine, turning it into products that can be used for the advancement of people? But you can't do that if you don't read. I would have never found out about this process if I didn't read. If you come to visit us in America, you will find in the morning when we give up, when our staff meeting has its first prayer, and in the evening before we go home, we have a discussion of literature. What did you read in the Wall Street Journal? Is there anything in Business Week? Is there anything in Fortune magazine? Summarize it, share it, we digest it, we go home. The first thing we do in the morning is, what have we read last night? Anything on the news? What has happened in economics? What has happened in social development? We circulate that among all of us, and then we plan our day out and we go to work. They're not supposed to be at work till 9 o'clock. I say be there at 8. Because the knowledge that you get, I'm not paying for that. That knowledge is for you. I'm coming, I don't get paid. You come, you don't get paid. We're coming because we love knowledge. I didn't have to give that speech. We have more hours in the building than any company in that building. Big, tall building, downtown San Francisco. If you go to the guard and you say, who stays in this building longer? He said, those Muslims up there with all those funny symbols all over the walls. I don't know, they must live. They must have cots up there because they're always there. The Japanese are in the building, the Koreans are in the building, but we stay there longer because we have more motivation. We look at the world. We look at our people. So if we're going to be talking to Saddam Hussein, we want to be prepared. We want to have something concrete to offer. If we're talking to Sheikh Saad or King Fahad or Mubarak, we don't want to just say, I like you, I don't like you. This is for children. We're not in a dating game. We're saying that we have done some research that we think can help you. We hope it isn't too amateurish, but we have found out the latest technology in this area is this. They told you about us locating water in the desert in Egypt, didn't they? Using the infrared. Told them exactly where to dig. Found in this area enough water to water 200,000 kilometers, and it will last for 200 years in the desert. We took the ice age and we simulated the ice age, the melting of the water. We used the hydraulic pressures to determine where the water would flow under the desert. And then we built a model of how one would use gravitation to suck that water into a large body so that the well drilling would be economic, all by computer, all by graphs showing exactly where to go. When we went to Egypt and handed it over, it was all laid out. Then you can say Assalamu alaikum. The people said, how much? What do you want for this? No. A group of Muslims in San Francisco, just give the credit to them, led by Dr. Ernest Hammond at Morgan State College, a brilliant African-American scientist. directed these people to come up with a solution, and they are proud to be a part of a contribution to your country. Then people begin to say the Muslims are on the rise. The number of farmers who are now beginning to get new farms say the Muslims are on the rise. But now we know more about infrared technology than we knew before. We can see now what we might do in China, what we might do in North Africa, where they have all those desert areas. The same principle, the same application. This was not something we got paid for. It is something that came out of our reading. And that's why I keep stressing and stressing, and I will continue to stress every time you see me. Igra. It is the best advice I can give you. Read, read, and read some more. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've been listening to you speaking more about reading as such. But I don't think that we have actually provided a solution to the problems that we have in this country aspects.
What problems do you...
Problems, like for instance, we've been listening to you speaking about people have to know computers and the like. That is good.
Right.
But if you go to our township, you look at the problem that you have there, you find that it's different from what you're saying. Our people are not learning. About 99% of them are illiterate. We don't have libraries. We have nothing. No school, nothing.
All right, let's all right. That's a good question, because every area is not the same. If you have illiteracy, mass illiteracy, your goal is what? Remove the mass illiteracy, right? So the first step is to go around the world and find out where there has been mass illiteracy and see what they did. That's intelligent. And you do that reading if you... Wait, but let me finish. If you don't have enough money to get on an airplane and visit 150 countries in the world, read. You get one report from the United Nations, and they will tell you here are the areas of illiteracy around the world. In 1950, in 1960, in 1970, 1980, 1990. And here is the approach that was employed in all of these areas to reduce illiteracy. This is what it cost. This is how many people did it voluntarily. This is how many governments paid for it. Here are the areas where people were poor and students made the sacrifice to go back to the homeland to begin the process. So then I want to zero in on that, because that's me. Wait, let me just finish. I'm trying to find an experience that approximates the area that I have targeted as the problem. Because when people told me to read before, I said the same thing you don't know the problems of the black men in America. They're on drugs. They don't believe in themselves. They're hopeless. They're helpless. But I didn't say that. I said, show me where are the people. Show me where a similar situation existed. Show me where 3 or 4 attempts were made to solve that problem. Show me which one was the most successful, and then go to work. No more talking. After we find out where the success is, stop the talking, get into the community, and wipe out illiteracy. So how does one do it? You don't do it by sitting here saying they got illiterates out there. If we go out there and we say, these are our people, how many here know how to read and write? Here is our program. The first 4 weeks we do this. The next 4 weeks we do this. The next 4 weeks we do this, and we should be at this level. Or I can say, I'm going to go to Mr. de Klerk and say, unless you make those people read and wipe out their illiteracy, I'm going to stay here and get mad. They will be illiterate while you're waiting. I say, let those who are politicians do that. Let us who are students and believe in our people and know how to read, teach our people how to read. My question is, how many people in this room have gone out there and taught people to read? That's practical. It's not dreaming, it's just practical. If people can't read, you can read. Why don't we go out there and teach some people to read? Isn't that kind of simple? That's what Castro did. Volunteers. That's what they did in Nicaragua. They said, we don't have money. America's suffocating us to death. We don't have any money. We don't even have enough books. How do we start? You know how they started? In the open field. No desks. When it rained, school was a rainy experience. No desks, no paper. They had rallies. And they started chanting songs. They started the people learning words through chants like a parade. And they start repeating back and forth. Pelo Sierra, siempre, siempre. Pelo Sierra, siempre, siempre. And the people began to learn these phrases. And in a very short period of time, the United Nations wrote, illiteracy has been substantially reduced in Ethiopia, where it was 95% by student volunteers. No money, no pity, no saying I'm going to wait for someone else because they owe me. They may owe you, but while they owe you, the people are illiterate. So assign someone to deal with the debt and take the rest to get the job done. That's what I'm saying. I've been all over the world, and I hear the same question everywhere I go. Look at the people, but no one wants to go to the people. I'm saying, if you see your house has mice, get a mouse trap. If they have rats, get a rat trap. If illiteracy is the problem, get our books and let's discuss it out there in the village. If we educate 10, we're 10 people better off. Every day, let's make a goal. If it's the weekend, let's do it on the weekend. Let's not wait for someone to do it if we can do it ourselves. When the people see us do it, it builds their confidence. They say, I couldn't read or write, but my son or my cousin or my brother came in with some strangers, and they came here week after week. Now let me read this to you. Let me read this for you. Why not? Your turn.
Yeah, actually, if now you look at clearly, I don't deny what you're saying. I'm also part of the people who run projects in my place. I'm running educational projects, but the problem that we have with those projects is because of the system that we are under. The system exploits. The system...
How does the system prevent you from teaching the people how to read? That's what I'm trying to find. How? How?
In terms of if we actually run what you call a private school, that private school is not going to be registered to the department.
So what? We're trying to get people to read. We don't want registration. We just want to get people to read.
Understand that we need a certificate so that we can go to universities.
No, we're talking about two different things. I'm talking about literacy. That person who learns how to read is not going to the university the next day. We're talking about basic fundamentals where parents can talk to their kids and their kids can talk to the parent. You're taking me to another level. You're talking about kids with educational skills that are approved by the state to get them in school. That's another problem, and it's an interesting problem. I'm talking about mass illiteracy, where mothers and fathers have not been taught to read. They don't believe they can read. Why don't we focus on that? Because we can do that. What I'm trying to find out, and you may know better than I do, tell me specifically, if I got this, everyone in this room, and we went out to the homeland and we started teaching people how to read who did not know how to read, what would the government do? Yes.
But I mean, isn't it to prove your productivity, you have to provide material, right?
You have to provide what?
Material in terms of certificates, right?
No. Why? Why do that?
I mean, to be recognized.
Sorry?
To be recognized. Are we supposed to provide certificates?
At what stage?
In terms of...
You're not going to do that the first 2 weeks. You're not going to get a certificate. We're talking about getting people that can't read at all to get the fundamentals. Old people who've been deprived all their life, they don't want a certificate. What they are talking about is, can I now get a newspaper and get information that I couldn't get before? Yes.
What would be the implication of that information?
Sorry?
What would be the implication of information? So information that you have acquired, you are productive in terms of people recognize you,
Oh, well, let me give you some basic examples. If I want to teach people how to farm, and the directions for how to use the fertilizer is written and they can't read, we got a problem. So I say to them, what are our goals? The people are living in an area, they can't read and they are starving. May I suggest that you read the story of Steve Biko's son's mother. And she was banned. And she was sent into a place she didn't know anything about, out in nowhere. And she said when she got out there, she tried to die. Because she had been at the university and she had become kind of an elitist. She grew up in urban areas. She didn't know those rural areas. She didn't know the customs of the people. And she was pregnant. She said, I know I cannot stay here, I cannot adjust. She said further, the only thing that kept me alive was that I didn't want Steve Biko's child to die. They took her to the hospital, the baby was born. After the baby was born, she stayed there under the banning law, teaching people how to read and write. One lady. The next thing she did is she taught them how to sew and how to farm so that they can begin to feed themselves. One lady. In Johannesburg, I met one lady that feeds 20,000 people a month. One lady. 20,000. She begs the merchants for money. Then she begs the merchants for food, and the men won't go with her. She has to go by herself, but 20,000 people get food. If each one of us fed 20,000 people, how many would we be feeding a month? 500,000, 1 million? Or we could stay here and discuss it and feed no one, talking about how the government prevents us. I'm not minimizing the government's interference, but I'm telling you, there are things that we can be doing, that we should be doing, and if we plan them systematically, we will be doing them. If one lady can plan 20,000, this is not imagination, she's not feeding them angel food, she is feeding them the food to keep their nutrition. They are now sewing. There's no electricity there. They can't run a power machine. I talked to her. I said, why don't you get a cutting table? Cut out the fabric, let the people sew it, and you can make more money for them. She said, my brother, you're just too ignorant. I appreciate your sincerity and you think you have a lot of ideas, but you don't know what you're talking about. There's no electricity out there, so you can't have a cutting table and you can't have the power machine. I said, all right, you presented a problem. I can't solve that problem. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to go back to my experts, and I'm going to get a group of people just like this, and we're going to study this problem until we get an answer. We're not going to engage in self-pity. We're not going to engage in self-destruction. We're going to solve this problem. I now am back here with the solution. When I go to Johannesburg, let me tell you with pride, my engineer, Khalid Al Mansoor, a fashion designer and a CPA, who went to school on a bicycle and lived in a room about the size of this corner with her 2 kids up on a lot. They had to climb a ladder steps up to the loft, and the 3 of them slept on the loft without any hot water, and she rode to the University of California, Berkeley, and rode back, and now she has a CPA exam because she refused to pity herself. She said other people may do it easier, they may have automobiles, they may have bigger homes, but I will do it. Now this young lady devised for us a solution. What is the solution? She devised a pattern that you tear. You don't need scissors. You simply take the fabric and you tear the fabric, and she then has a design for stitching the fabric, and you have a blouse. So now we can go back to those ladies and say, we're going to bring 50 machines here, and we're going to want you to make blouses, and I'm going to take those blouses to America, and we're going to sell those blouses under a label called Authentically African. Janet Jackson #1. Then with the money that is made, we're going back and tell the ladies, why don't we now get some electricity and put in power so we can make more blouses? Now, all I'm saying to you, brother, match me. You produce as many jobs as I do here for our people. You educate as many people as I do here. And then we'll talk about it. I say you use your approach. I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, you take your approach and you say after 1 year, and we'll start with the same amount of money. Nothing. We'll start with 0. We agree. I won't use money. You won't use money. We'll use people who believe in us. And we will set up goals. Jobs, education. And jobs and education. Then I will see how the government interferes with me. You will see how the government interferes with you. Then we'll add just simple math. Here's how many jobs you have produced for my people. Here's how many jobs I have produced for my people. Here's how many people we have educated. Here's how many people you've educated. Then we let the people compare the results. Is that fair? We got a deal? Oh, brother.
What I would say that really, in reality, actually you say it like the text says, right, to speak the same language.
I don't know anything about it. I'm saying if I educate people and the clerk doesn't educate people, I don't see how we can speak the same language. If I talk about people having jobs and the clerk says people don't have jobs, I don't know how we can speak the same language. We are talking results. I'm saying match me in the name of our people. Just match me. If I produce 10, you produce 10. What does that have to do with the clerk?
Let me explain.
All right.
The problem, I said it before, that the problem that we have, I said the masses that you're speaking about, the masses can be able to read and write. But what we have, we don't have the means of going to higher institutions and federal.
What's the illiteracy rate here?
Understand.
What's the illiteracy rate here? What is the illiteracy rate in this country? Huh?
99%.
Well, then why do you say they can read and write, the masses?
Actually, what I'm trying to say to you is that in a nutshell, maybe we don't understand each other.
All right.
What I'm trying to say is the same question that you raised up, that the question that we have is that we can learn those things as we learn it. Our people learn that. But what are they having? They're not productive at all. They're not productive. What we have in this system, we've got the middle class people. Education is provided for the middle class, those who can afford. Right? Those who can afford. The masses, the entire masses cannot afford. And there's a system that is designing the whole thing. We don't have textbooks, we don't have teachers, we have nothing. We don't have computers, we know nothing about computers, we know nothing, right from the grassroots level. And everybody is saying what you're saying. Nice, good ways. People must do this, people must do this. Who go and do that to the masses? No one goes to the masses.
The lady is feeding 20,000 of the masses, brother.
Well, but that is
what?
Johannesburg. It's a number in Johannesburg. What are people here in Durban?
I'm saying that we should be doing the same thing she's doing.
No.
All right, are you telling me that what she does in Johannesburg we can't do here? Why?
Now the problem.
No, wait, just answer that. What she does is there a different system in Johannesburg than Durban?
I think we have to entertain another question, please.
Yes.
I acknowledge the fact that you say this lady fed so many people.
Yes.
But then I doubt the source from where she acquired the meat.
Go ask her. Follow her. Follow her and find out where she got. That's simple. We just state the problem. We don't have to guess. We don't have to doubt. Follow her. If she's feeding 20,000, that's a lot of food. She can't hide it under her arms, so you just simply follow her, say, sister, where are you going, and where are you going, and then you know where the food is, and then you say, well, why don't we do the same thing? What I am stressing is let us stop complaining and do what someone else has done. If no one has done it, then I would agree with you. Maybe it can't be done. Here is a lady who took her time, like Biko's son's mother. She actually is teaching and has taught the women
poor women how to farm who didn't have anything to eat. Now they're eating. Why can't we do that? Why can't we take this lady with 20,000 people and do it here? So you may tell me Johannesburg is different than Durban, and that may be true. All you have to do is show me the reason she can do it in Johannesburg and the reason we cannot do it here is X, Y, and Z. Then I say, fine, brother, let's get together and find out how we will get around the problem of Durban. I'm not going to give up. Just, I want to find out what the rules are, and I'm going to come up with a solution. She came up with a solution for Johannesburg. We will come up with a solution for Durban. But if we sit here for the next 10 years and say we can't, there's too much opposition, it can't be done, it will not. While we are still debating among ourselves, the people will still be starving. So I'm saying let's just let a few debate and let the rest of us go and get the job done so that we do both. Then we ask the debaters, what have you done for the race? And we ask the doers, what have you done for the race? Then let the people tell you which they prefer, the debaters or the doers.
I think we must take one more question because of time. We are overrunning.
Okay, I've been following your lectures, Dr. Mansoor, and you have stressed on the economic solution as a national solution, I think, into this country. Now, I'm suggesting to you, and you have stressed on the Japanese model also quite often. Now, we have a very diverse population.
Yes.
It's a heterogeneous population also. And I think we get more conflict of ideas than anything else. I want you to comment on that.
Well, I think ideas are healthy, actually. I like to see as many ideas as possible, but there's a point at which you have to implement a program, or you'll talk forever. That's what intellectuals have tended to do in the past. Everyone says, well, I got a view, I have a theory, and I don't really like that, I have problems with that, shouldn't we look at this? And we get involved in rhetoric and poetic exchange. At some point we say simply, what is the program to get from point A to point B? Let's have 5 suggestions. Practically, what are the goals? We can't do everything. We can't solve all the problems regardless to how sincere we are. So let's outline a number of problems that we can solve. Let's assume one of them is educating as many people who are at the lowest level, who can't read or write, and poor and illiterate, and their life is miserable. Let's make that one of our target groups. And then let's say economically and educationally, what is the best way at our disposal to improve their life? And we get 5 or 10 suggestions. And then we say, can we agree on these suggestions? You will probably have 3 that you can agree on, and the others you just can't. People won't give up their point of view. So then we say, all right, we've gone as far as we can. We have 3 strategies for action. I don't want no more theory now. 3 strategies for action. You take yours and implement it. You take yours and implement it. And you take yours and implement it. And then at the end of some period of time, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, whatever you want, we will come back and evaluate what we have done. And I will promise you, if you have most success, I'll stop mine and join yours because you have proven that your plan is the best. We're not competing for honors. We are committed to the masses. Now, someone else may say, the masses, that's wonderful, but we have to look at the children of the masses who want to get ahead. We say, all right, who would like to take that problem? Because I can't take them all. So I say, well, why don't the members of this group discuss the children of the masses, the problems that they have, which entail certification, acceptance of certificates, career planning, and they begin to plan that problem. That's no problem with me. I say take that, organize solutions, adopt it the same way. Some say, well, here's what we're running into. You begin to respond to that kind of a problem. For me, My priority are the poorest people in the country, the people that have the least hope, the people that live in the most constrained life. That's where my obligations are. And I'm going to be thinking of everything I can to provide some avenue to improve their lot. But that shouldn't stop you from taking another segment. And someone else may want to take a middle class segment. That's fine. Take whatever segment you want. We're friends. We're all working to try to benefit whatever group we've looked at. But don't get mad at me if I reduce illiteracy by 90% with the group I'm working with. I'm not going to get mad with you if you get a certification for the students of that family. It all benefits the people. I am interested in the masses, educationally, mentally, spiritually, and economically. That's the niche that I'm carving out, the poorest in the country. That's where I want to concentrate my energy. Then you tell me where you're concentrating, you tell me where you're concentrating, and tell me how I can help you. I'll do my best with the amount of time I have. Tell me how I can help you. I will do my best with the time amount I have, and I will tell you how to help me. I'll say, brother, you got fantastic ideas, but right now, this Saturday, we're going out and have a big rally in the homeland, and we're going to say no flunk outs, no dropouts. Honor grades will make you feel good like black youth should, and we're going to scream it for 1 hour. Back and forth, that's all we're going to say. No flunk outs, no drop. And I need you to come and get your voice strong, and that's all we're going to do. And maybe 1 month later you tell me what I need you for is to march with me in front of City Hall because this is what we're looking for. I say, well, brother, let's weigh it, and if it makes sense to me, I'll be there. Simple. I'm finished, but I'll talk to you after.
Thanks. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. I think we have another appointment, but I'll be here to talk to you either walking out or running out the door. Come on up, brother. I'm not going anywhere.
I would like, since this students are mainly from the MSA, I would like the MSA to move the vote of thanks and close the proceedings.
On behalf of the Muslim Students Association, I would like to thank Dr. Mansoor for addressing us here today. In fact, most of us have been attending most of his talks that been carrying on during the evenings. And maybe we can put some of his ideas into practice. And also the other thing is, maybe the ideas that he puts forward should enlighten those people with the money to enable us to put forward these ideas. Dr. Mansoor, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
I would like to see Mr. DeClerk gather them together, black and white, Bishop Tutu, everyone, come together and repent for lying on God. Now, I would ask you, as a Christian, one who proclaims and professes to have met Jesus, how are you and your people going to develop 2 million jobs for the country? All right. How are you going to stop making the Pope white, Mary white, Jesus white, Moses white when they were not white? When and where are you going to develop a mass education program and not tell the people to wait till they get to heaven? When are you going to tell the man with 47 cars to sell those cars and give that money back to the poor people so that they might have a decent life? When are you going to repent on behalf of the Christians for enslaving the people, the descendants of whom are in this building tonight? When are you going to repent for causing the slaves to be prostitutes? When are you going to repent and ask forgiveness? When are you going to ask the white people to give back at least half of the 87% of the land that they stole in view of the fact that the Bible said, thou shalt not steal? When are you going to persuade your Christian white brothers to not control 95% of every asset in this country? And finally, when are you going to persuade the white people to give to the Tswana tribe all the Kimberley property that was the birthplace of all of the diamonds, and give them an accounting for all the money due to them? When?
I have not studied much, but what I do know, I have met Jesus.
Thank you
And
very
I
much.
know he has changed my life.
So you don't want to answer the question?
That he will change many other
Thank
people
you, sir.
except him.
Can I have the next question?
All right,
please?
brother.
Thank you very much.
Keep the faith. When white people say they're white, they're not referring to the color of their skin. If Margaret Thatcher gets a suntan, I don't know what it would look like, but let's just assume that Margaret Thatcher got a suntan. You wouldn't call her a colored woman, would you? You would still call her a white woman, even though her skin may be brown. What do you mean when you say white? You mean that she is from Europe. So whether she's Italian, white, Sweden, white, England, white, France, white. White means coming from Europe. Black means coming from Africa. So whether we're fair skin, brown skin, dark skin, East Coast, West Coast, North, South, if we're from the black continent and we've been here 300 years, we are black people from the black continent. All over the world, 1 billion people uniting through Ramadan. That's why I'm hopeful and optimistic that by the year 2050, when 1 out of every 2 persons would have been born a Muslim, we would have the first real meaningful opportunity for a permanent world peace. Assalamu alaikum. This country could explode. Who will be the first targets? The businessmen, the lawyers, those who didn't want the masses in their office. They will come without your permission. So if Hitler killed 6 million Jews who were European Jews, and Hitler was a European, give the Jews part of Germany, not of Palestine. Sure, he worked, so do I. Raising the kids is not easy. Cooking and washing and taking them to school, this is not easy. He doesn't seem to understand I work too. What I'm trying to find out, and you may know better than I do, tell me specifically, if I got this, everyone in this room, and we went out to the homeland and we started teaching people how to read who did not know how to read, what would the government do? What I'm saying to you in closing is that there is a great opportunity to really be a new South Africa and a new Africa. Forget the begging. There will be no gifts. I don't care what the World Bank tells you and the International Monetary Fund tells you. It's crumbs.